Hey, it's Mombi doing a little progress report. I've done some various crafts. I didn't think that any of them really merited a video all of their own, so I'm going to put them all in one. I made a decision and I made a small little overhang over the balcony door. I used foam board and the same cardboard, and it's done exactly the same way as the main roof. And then I just used some square dowels to hold it up in the front. And you'll notice there's a balcony railing. And that was pretty simple too. It was just more square dowels, and then I cut little angled pieces with my miter shears for support and because they look cool. I've decided that the sink that I made is just too large for the kitchen space. So I'm going to make this an outdoor sink that he can use to clean up after gardening or, whatever he may need to do outdoors. So that's no longer in here. So then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a little table to put the bucket on that he can use for washing up. And so I had some pieces lying around and kind of pieced a bunch of scraps together and put a piece of fabric on there. And then I realized, oh crap, I didn't measure it. And it's really tall. It's like way too tall for little Hamish. Here, I'll show you. I mean, how is he going to get his hands way up in that bucket to clean anything? It's huge. So, this is now a cabinet up in his bedroom that he can put some candles on, or maybe some clothes, or extra blankets down inside. And instead, I took... those dollar store, like the little side tables that have 3 drawers that everybody's done a makeover on. Well, this is my version mixed with the crappy chairs that were all crooked. I took all those pieces apart and I used the pieces along with one little tiny dollar store Jenga block. And I made this little table, which still needs to be dry brushed, but this is what's going to hold his bucket and potatoes or dishes or whatever. So that's going to go under there, and it's a much better height for him to be able to wash up and whatnot. And you'll notice above here I made more little shelves out of scrap wood. It's just a craft stick and little matchsticks around the edge, more little mitered pieces. There's my dryer buzzing very loudly. The back is more of those little tumbling tower Dollar Tree Jenga blocks with little hooks and nails in them to hold pots and pans. These will have to be repainted. Those are from the miniature our generation, the Lori dolls, the little 6-inch Lori dolls. I've got a lot of those pieces that I've used for my 1/6 scale that work pretty well, so I stole some of the little pots for Hamish. I made another shelf over here, which again is just scrap wood, and I used a skewer that I poked, drilled 2 holes with my hand drill. These again are Jenga blocks in half. Pieced together a little shelf. And these curtains I made out of very, very thin fabric, and I used some watered down glue and a little bit of hot glue to help hold the folds in them so that they will stay in that shape. Otherwise, as we know, when you try to do curtains in miniature, sometimes the fabric poofs out and it's just too big, doesn't want to stay put. So I've got that. And then, of course, he needed somewhere to eat. So I made him a little dining table. And a lot of these pieces here, like the bread and stuff, is just stuff that I made years ago for my my Barbie scale. Actually, this bread, this is funny. My oldest daughter and I, who she's now almost 17, she grew up, we've crafted with my Froggy stuff with Toya, my Froggy stuff for years and years. And this is one of the first crafts that we made together. It was a loaf of bread out of the cornstarch dough. And if you're familiar with Froggy, which, I mean, if you do anything in 1/6 scale and you do anything with dolls, you're well acquainted with her. Yeah, Toya, we love her. But this is that, oh my gosh, yeah, well over 10 years old, this loaf of bread that we made out of cornstarch dough. Just a side note on that. I will put photos of how I pieced this together. It's just, again, Dollar Tree pieces. I bought one of those little birdhouse kits, and that's what I used for the top, was one of those pieces of wood from the birdhouse kit. And then I just pieced in some dowels on the sides, made little legs, and these are all just made out of just scrap pieces and random dowels. And the top piece, although I textured in to look like planks, is just one piece of wood. I just cut into it with my my X-Acto and painted it and dry brushed it and put a little bit of black chalk pastel in spots to kind of grunge it up and give it some shadow. Like I said, I'll put photos of how I put that together, just really simple. So now he has somewhere to eat, but then of course he needed somewhere to sit. So I took those wonky dollar store chairs, took them all apart, took my hairdryer to them to release the glue. I replaced these two outside pegs with just a wooden dowel that I had here. And yes, the legs are very, very chunky. But I used, again, Dollar Tree, those little square wooden blocks from their crafters section. I used those as legs because you'll notice these little pigs have very large heads. And yes, he's sitting on there really bad, but I tried to get him on there one-handed. But they get kind of top heavy, and their heads aren't super heavy, but sometimes they'll sit at an odd angle. So I wanted a chair with pretty sturdy feet, hence the little square wooden blocks. But of course, now everything is really dark, so I'm going to make little chair cushions that I'm going to tie onto the back with some embroidery thread. And I'm going to make little cushions out of perhaps that fabric. I think we'll maybe put some orange in there, or I've got a really cute floral, but I don't know. I just think maybe Hamish isn't a floral type of dude. I'm not real sure. But all I've done is just make a little cardboard template. Yes, dryer. Cardboard template that I glued onto a piece of felt. Then I'm going to cut those out, and I will glue the fabric around on the top, the felt side. And as I said, I'm going to take embroidery floss, and I will make little ties, and I will tie them onto the chairs. So he'll have a little bit of color on these dark wood chairs, because everything is such a dark wood. But that's where we're at. I will be back when I get the cushions done, and that's where we are. Okay, I just gave a pretty liberal coat of that nutmeg. It's still dry brushing, but I went kind of heavy. And I ended up doing the seats a little more because just in case my seat cushions don't turn out, I want the seats to look kind of good. And I might go back and maybe sand a little bit, you know, on the edges and rough them up a bit. But for now, I'll do a little bit of that elephant gray that I used on the roof, and I'm just going to put just a little bit like where it would see some water damage. A little bit on the top here. Not a ton, but just a hint. A little bit down the front, perhaps. And just the tiniest hint of green. Just where the bucket would sit. Or spill, slosh about. And then we'll go in with some linen. I'm just going to go this time in the direction of the grain because, as I said, crappy wood. Get a little bit on the edges, on the spindles, on the front here. Rough it up a bit. That's what I'm after for this piece. The chairs, just a tiny bit of the linen. Oops, as I go right in with way too much. Just catch some edges. Those chunky legs just make me laugh. Just like that. Not too heavy. There's the chairs. And like I said, I'm going to wait until the cushions are ready to go. And if they turn out, I will put them on the chairs. And I think I'm going to give Again, the Mod Podge makes me nervous because I don't want to put any shine on this wood. I might just do the hairspray like I did on the table. But I'm not going to do anything until I check on my cushions. So after they are done, we will check back in. I forgot the pastels. I was going to do a little black on these too, just like I did the table. So I'll pull my table out so I can look at it. And just like we did on that, I'm just going to kind of go in where there would be a shadow. And now I'm definitely going to need to use the hairspray because I don't want black pastel all over my little dolly, all over my little pig. Not worried if I go a little heavy with this stuff. Like I said, this is old. It can have quite a bit of black on there. And just a little bit, see the difference there with that pastel, how it just gives it some shadow, some depth. I love that. That's exactly what I'm after. This guy, since there's a shelf, I'm going to get down in here and get the back. Darken that up. It didn't really take the stain that well anyway. Some of those little Jenga blocks just kind of fight it. Get the top of the spindles. Bottom of the spindles where some grime would accumulate. And again, because he's gonna have had a bucket on there, as we know, if you leave a plant sit on your windowsill and it leaks, you get that lovely black spot there. And that's what I'm going to do for that one. I am going to go ahead. I'm just going to give these guys a coat of hairspray just so that I don't end up with pastels all over myself. All right. And then we're still waiting on the cushions. Let's see if the cushions turned out. They're cute. So that's how they'll sit on there. I like that little pop of color. I think that's gonna work well. Cool. I'm just gonna take a big needle and some embroidery floss. If I can find the end. I'm just gonna look roughly about where that will meet the post there. I'm just gonna pull it through, leave enough to tie. Come on, hands. Just gonna put the thread down in between the slats there. Try not to pull it out of my cushion. I'm just gonna tie those into place and do it on the other chair as well. And there they are. Little chairs. I wanted to do little bows on the back of here, but man, my hands just would not let me. So they just got regular little knots. But I think they're so cute. Now Hamish can sit down and eat some 10-year-old bread. And then there's the little stand for the bucket. Kind of put it underneath of there. I might put like a little rubbish bin down beside it so he can peel potatoes and chuck the peels down in there. I keep saying potatoes because I have these really old air dry clay potatoes that I made forever ago too, but I think that's about it for now. All these little random things up here are just pieces that I've had, or, you know, Temu finds that I've redone. These little candlesticks actually were in a really old set of Dollhouse furniture that I've been hanging on to for years. I've got, speaking of Temu, I got some of these little guys that are all over. Of course, you know, mine came broken, so I've got some wood glue on that. And they're really tiny. I mean, yes, Hamish will fit in them because they're, you know, he's small, but if you're looking for 1/12 scale, I think these would be great for like calico critters, or little woodsies. I think those would work really well, as long as they're, you know, sometimes when they sit, their legs go out at an awkward angle, so it depends on whether or not they've got a tail, or, you know, how well they sit. But I've got, hang on just a second. I don't have them handy. I thought I had a little figure, one of those little, the ones that you see all over that you use for drawing, but they're the little faceless, supposed to be 1/12 scale, that are also very, very tiny. But yeah, there's those guys just hanging around. I don't know if I'll use those or not. But that's where we're at. Those are the projects I've been working on. I'm not sure what's next. I want to do some rugs, definitely. For sure, do one in front of the fireplace, and then up in the bedroom for his little feetsies when he gets out of bed. I've got some things I want to do on the outside of the building. I want to do some vines and whatnot and on certain areas. A little bird's nest that I want to put up here, make a little birdie nest. Just random things. I don't know what's next on the list, but that's where we're at right now, and I will see you next time around. Bye.